Good evening, wanderers, and welcome back to the Hidden Forest. Tonight, we venture into the deepest and oldest parts of the woods, where only the most ancient of creatures reside. Tonight's horrifying tale is Mr. Widemouth, a terrifying story about a sick young man visited by a dark creature. It is a chilling reminder that evil does not show mercy. It will find us when we are at our most vulnerable. So please, sit back, lock your doors, hide those steak knives, and let us begin. During my childhood, my family was like a drop of water in a vast river, never remaining in one place for long. We settled in Rhode Island when I was 8, and there we remained until I went to college in Colorado Springs. Most of my memories are rooted in Rhode Island, but there are fragments in the attic of my brain of various homes we lived in when I was much younger. Most of these memories are unclear and pointless. Chasing around another boy in the backyard of a house in North Carolina, trying to build a raft to float down the creek beyond the apartment that we had in Pennsylvania, and so on. But there is one set of memories, made as clear as glass, as though they were just made yesterday. I often wonder whether these memories are simply lucid dreams that I experienced, produced by a long sickness that I had that spring. But in my heart, I know that they are real. We were living in a house just outside the bustling metropolis of New Vineyard, Maine, population 603. It was a large structure, especially for a family of 3. There were a number of rooms that I didn't see during the 5 months that we resided there. In some ways, it was a waste of space, but it was the only house in the market at the time, at least within an hour's commute of my father's workplace. The day after my 5th birthday, attended by only my parents alone, I came down with a fever. The doctor said that I had monoleukiosis, which meant no rough play, and a fever for another 3 weeks. It was a horrible time to be bedridden. We were in the middle of packing for a move to Pennsylvania, and most of my things were already packed away in boxes, leaving my room barren. My mother brought me ginger ale and books several times a day, and these served as my primary source of entertainment for the next few weeks. Boredom always lurked just around the corner, waiting to rear its ugly head and compound my misery. I don't exactly recall how I met Mr. Widemouth. I think it was about a week after I got diagnosed with mono. My first memory of the small creature was asking if he had a name. He told me to call him Mr. Widemouth, for his mouth was large. In fact, everything about him was large in comparison to his body. His head, his eyes, his crooked ears, but his mouth was by far the largest. "You look kinda like a Furby," I said as he flipped his way for one of my books. Mr. Widemouth stopped and gave me a puzzled look. "Furby? What's a Furby?" he asked. I shrugged. "You know, the toy, the little robot with the big ears. You can pet them and feed them almost like a real pet." "Oh," Mr. Widemouth resumed. "You don't need one of those. They aren't the same as a real friend." I remember Mr. Widemouth disappeared every time my mother came in to check in on me. "I lay under your bed," he later explained. "I don't want your parents to see me. I'm afraid they won't let us play anymore." We didn't do much during those first few days. Mr. Widemouth mostly just looked at my books, fascinated by the stories and pictures they contained. The 3rd or 4th morning that I met him, he greeted me with a large smile on his face. "I have a new game we can play," he said. "We have to wait until your mother comes and checks up on you. She can't see us play it. It's a secret game." After my mother delivered more books and soda at her usual time, Mr. Widemouth slipped out from under the bed and took my hand. "We have to go to the room at the end of the hallway." I objected at first, because my parents forbid me from leaving this bed without their permission. But Mr. Widemouth persisted, until I gave in. The room in question had no furniture or wallpaper. Its only distinguishing feature was a window opposite the door. Mr. Widemouth darted across the room and gave the window a firm push, flinging it open. He beckoned me to look out at the ground below. We were on the second story of the house, but it was on a hill, and from this angle, the drop was further than 2 stories due to the incline. I like to play pretend up here. I like to pretend there's a big soft trampoline below, and then I jump. If you pretend hard enough, you will bounce up like a feather. I want you to try. I was a 5-year-old of a fever, so only a hint of skepticism came over me as I looked down and considered the possibility. It's a long drop, I said. But that's all part of the fun. It wouldn't be fun if it was a short drop. If it were that way, you might as well bounce off a real trampoline. I toyed with the idea, picturing myself falling through the thin air, only to bounce up back to the window by something unseen by human eyes. But the realist in me prevailed. Maybe some other time. I don't know if I have enough imagination, and I could get hurt. Mr. Widemouth's face contorted into a snarl, but only for a moment. Anger gave way to disappointment. If you say so, he said, and he spent the rest of the day hiding under my bed, quiet as a mouse. The next morning, Mr. Widemouth came to me holding a small box. I want to teach you how to juggle. Here are some things you can practice with before I start giving you lessons. I opened the box, and it was full of knives. My parents will kill me, I shouted, horrified that Mr. Widemouth brought knives into my room, something my parents would never allow me to touch. I'll be spanked and grounded for a year. Mr. Widemouth frowned. It's fun to juggle with these. I want you to give it a try. I pushed the box back. I can't. I'll get in trouble. Knives aren't safe to just throw in the air. Mr. Widemouth's frown deepened into a scowl. He took the box of knives and slid under the bed, remaining there for the rest of the day. I began to wonder how often he was under me. I began to have trouble sleeping after that. Mr. Widemouth would wake me up in the middle of the night, saying that he put a real trampoline under the window, a big one that I wouldn't be able to see in the dark. I always declined and wouldn't try to go back to sleep, but Mr. Widemouth persisted. He would stay by my bedside until early in the morning, trying to encourage me to jump. He wasn't so fun to play with anymore. One morning, my mother came to me and told me that she had my permission to walk around outside. She thought the fresh air would be good for me, especially after being confined in my room for so long. Ecstatic, I threw on my sneakers and rushed for the back door, yearning to feel the sun on my face. Mr. Widemouth was waiting for me. I have something I want you to see. I must have given him a weird look, because then he said, It's safe. I promise. I followed him to the beginning of a deer trail that ran behind our house. That is an important path. I've had a lot of friends about your age. When they were ready, I took them down the path to a special place. You aren't ready to go, but one day I hope to take you there. I returned to the house, wondering what kind of place lay beyond that trail. 2 weeks after meeting Mr. Widemouth, the last load of our things had been loaded onto the moving truck. I would be in the cab of the truck, sitting next to my father for the long drive to Pennsylvania. I considered telling Mr. Widemouth that we were leaving, but even at 5 years old, I was beginning to believe that the creature's intentions were not to my benefit, despite what he said otherwise. For this reason, I decided to keep my departure a secret. My father and I were in the truck at 4 a.m. He was hoping to make Pennsylvania by lunchtime tomorrow, with the help of an endless supply of coffee and a 6-pack of energy drinks. He seemed more like a man ready to run a marathon than someone who was about to sit still for 2 days. Early enough for you? He asked. I nodded and placed my head against the window, hoping for some sleep before the sun came up. My father placed his hand on my shoulder. This is the last move, I promise. I know it's been hard for you, sick as you've been. Once Daddy's been promoted, We can settle down and you can make some real friends. I opened my eyes as we backed out of the driveway. I saw Mr. Widemouth's silhouette in my bedroom window. He stood motionless until the truck was about to make a turn onto the main road. He gave a pitiful little wave, steak knife in hand. I didn't wave back. Years later, I returned to New Vineyard. The piece of land our house stood upon was empty except for the frame, as if the house burned down years after my family left. Out of curiosity, I followed the trail that Mr. Widemouth had showed me. Part of me expected him to jump out from behind a tree and scare the living bejesus out, but I felt Mr. Widemouth was gone, tied to a house that no longer existed. The trail ended at the New Vineyard Cemetery. I noticed that several of the gravestones belonged to children. Now, wasn't that a horrifying tale? I do hope you enjoy, and by all means return, for I have so much more to show you here, and you will always be welcome in the hidden forest. Thank you guys for listening. I hope the audio quality was okay. I don't know if you can tell, but I myself am sick. I debated on postponing, but I thought it was fitting given the nature of the story. If you guys have any stories you want me to cover here, please let me know. And if you're interested, I also write creepypastas myself under the name Tanakh, so please feel free to give those a read. And I hope to see you again real soon.